A wrestling legend goes off script during a match at WrestleMania weekend. Plus, AEW announced an ROH title match for Dynamite, and a popular AEW gimmick match is set to return this summer. It's all in the wrestling news right now. So this is a story that comes from WrestleMania weekend that may seem a foggy memory in your mind right now, but this has awoken it all again. So, from the Wrestling Observer. So this comes from Major League Wrestling, who had a show in Dallas over WrestleMania weekend on the 31st of March. Yes, it was. So the Observer says, the LA Park family is done with MLW. It's always a good start.
And why, Tom? Why are they done with MLW?
Well, I will tell you.
I can't believe this.
On March 31st at the MLW show that took place in Dallas over WrestleMania weekend, the Park family was supposed to do a post-match run-in on Jacob Fatu. This would set up a match between Fatu and Park. Very nice, here's some money. The Parks got very rough with Fatu. Alex Hammerstone was part of the run-in, and he was bleeding from the side of his head, and he and LA Park exchanged punches. One person noted they went off script, ruined the post-match angle, and went into business for themselves and unloaded live rounds, so real punches and stuff.
Potatoes.
Potatoes on Fatu and Hammerstone. This included some reckless chair shots that busted both Fatu and Hammerstone open, both needing medical attention after this. Court Bauer fired all three members of the LA Park family. That's LA Park Jr., and El Hijo de LA Park. They were all sent home the following day. Fatu and Hammerstone will be fine. They had medical they had medical attention, as we say. And when they got backstage, Hammerstone was yelling at Park to go right now. Either fight or go. I'd imagine with all that going on,
it's leave right now before I do something I regret.
Park then started acting as if he didn't understand English.
Which is exceptional, considering he's been working in the US since, what, the late 80s, early 90s?
Yes. This led to changes on the April the 1st show where Fatu instead beat Bestia 666 in the main event instead of Park. So that was a bit of a wild time had by all at the MLW show at WrestleMania weekend.
There's got to be something juicy behind this. Like, it's either something juicy or it's like, I don't even know. You know, you don't want to speculate too much on things like this, but it's just wild. Like, to come in and deliberately with people that are, you know, MLW are really banking on and MLW are really projecting forward as their stars, and then just start unloading live rounds. It's like, okay, I'd get it, you know, if somebody came in, maybe a couple of shots and it's like, it's a little hard, just kind of, you know, cool down a bit, and then it was all a bit, oh, I'm sorry, you know, and then it all eased off. But to come in and deliberately just start going for it, it doesn't end any other way. Like, you get fired. Maybe that's what they were gunning for.
Do you reckon they just want to go
Maybe
home?
It's release. It's got to take something extreme, or you've got to want something that you're not going to be able to easily get if you're going to try and do this. So I don't. Nobody looks good coming out of it.
More to this than
possibly,
than we know right
but
now.
It could just be, you know, a wild, crazed moment. It could be anything. But
okay, well, certainly one that we will.
It's definitely
keep
what I'm gonna
tabs on.
Yeah, trying to find out all the juicy gossip because I need to know all the juicy gossip.
It was also over WrestleMania weekend that we had ROH Supercard of Honor that saw the return to Ring of Honor of Samoa Joe. And Joe turned up in AEW. He's qualified for the Owen Hart tournament, beating Max Caster last Wednesday. He's got a slightly taller order this coming Wednesday. Let's go to Sam Driver for this one.
My pants are ruined. Absolutely ruined. Look at the picture. I didn't even say anything. Look at it. My pants they're so soggy right now. Salty. Delicious. No, Minoru Suzuki versus Samoa Joe on TV. On TV. Tune in. If you're not, then what are you doing? Jesus Christ. They're going to absolutely leather each other. I can't wait. I can't wait. Do you reckon Suzuki's going to be able to get him up for a GSP?
I think you might die trying. Suzuki and Joe. Exciting. excited he is.
Next story. My erection.
Suzuki had a very busy WrestleMania weekend.
He did.
Had a lovely match against Effie.
Oh, did you see? That's one of my favorite ever wrestling moments. If you've not seen it, Suzuki's chopping Effie on the outside, and Effie's just like harder, and he's just like slapping his chest. Effie gets forward and just starts basically backhanding Suzuki round the face, and he's like, "I said harder, you little bitch!" And then he like lies back against the rope. Oh man, it's so good.
And then the match ended shortly out because Suzuki was chopping him in the ring, and Effie thought there's only one way to counter this: kiss him. And Effie kisses Suzuki, and Suzuki just hits him with a Gotch pile driver. It's mwah. Love Effie. Love the bones off of Effie. And Suzuki, the ROH television champion, putting that belt on the line against Joe on Dynamite on Wednesday. Talking of ROH, Tony Khan was having a chat with ESPN about a number of things, including ROH's future as a weekly telly show. And he says, Warner Media was really cool about me doing Supercard of Honor. I think there's great potential in continuing Ring of Honor as a weekly series. I do own it as a separate entity from AEW, but I also have a TV contract with Warner that I'm going to produce wrestling shows for them. I've been having these conversations with Warner because I think it would make sense for everyone, and I think they're open to it. But in the short timeline we had, what I asked for was basically an exemption for it being outside the portfolio. But it seems as if there's going to be conversations about Warner taking on an ROH show.
So initially, when I heard this, I was a bit like, but then I realized, no, we're talking about American TV here. So it works. I guess it's starting to be, it's been more like this over the last decade or so over here anyway. But essentially in the US, it's a lot of conglomerates. And so Warner saying, yes, we'll do Ring of Honor doesn't mean it'll have to be on one of the networks that AEW's on. It could mean that it could be on any of their subsidiary networks. It could be, just put somewhere different so that it's got its own unique spot, its own unique channel, its own unique feel. And I think that might be the best thing for it, because the only other option you've got as Tony Khan is to maybe shop it out elsewhere. But then if you're currently tied up in a contract with Warner, that might specify you're not allowed to produce wrestling content for another network, or it might be that you've got to run things by us before you do that, or it could just cause difficulties between Tony and the network as an entity, possibly, or it could be very much open. But I think the only other option there was, in an ideal world, you'd go, if you weren't looking for a Warner channel, try somewhere else, and then that would give you a new spot for it, and it would also probably give you leverage toward Warner for AEW's future contract. But I think Warner will just stick it on a different network, to be honest.
Very likely.
Yeah.
I think we'll see ROH on TV again.
So long as it's produced properly, wrestling is very cheap to make. A base level, you need a room. You don't even need to tour it, really, but you need a space you can shoot in, a ring, your talent, and a crowd. That's it. At the base level. So it's Warner's got to be kind of clapping their hands a bit.
Do you reckon? Yeah, we'll have that. We'll have a little bit of that. In this interview with ESPN, also Tony Khan talked about a few other things. Was asked if Blood and Guts is coming back in the summer, and he said yes, it is coming back in the summer. So we're getting another Blood and Guts match.
I like guts.
All those things. I enjoyed that. Now, obviously, this was a match that we were going to have in 2020, and then the World caught fire. It got moved back to 2021. We saw a version of it that was really quite gruesome, including Chris Jericho taking a bump at the end off the cage.
Yeah.
And it was, I seem to remember that it looked great. Some of the replays weren't as kind, but it was a really cool moment.
It was like the moment happened and it was like, oh my God. And then it cut to Jericho kind of lying in an area where, because of the landing, the ground mats were kind of exposed underneath, like the padding underneath the landing area. And that obviously led to AEW from like certain subjects on the internet. And it led to other people going, yeah, but we don't complain when it's a huge airbag for Shane McMahon. It's just the usual back and forward.
It reminded me of WrestleMania 17 and Triple H taking that choke slam into oblivion. Yeah. And then it turned out it wasn't Oblivion, it was the Silent Night Factory. Typical AEW copying WWE. I'm kidding. But also, as well as Blood and Guts, Stadium Stampede was mentioned in this interview, and Tony said, I'll have to get back to you on that one. I've thought about it. It's a very different wrestling world than it was during the pandemic. I think it's a great match, a signature match for all of us that people really enjoyed. But some of the reasons we presented that match were because of the challenges that existed in the world because of the pandemic. As far as presenting, you caught me on breath there. As far as presenting sporting events with live fans, that doesn't really exist in this live event pandemic.
How about we just take Stadium Stampede and turn it into a stadium show?
Ooh. Now you're thinking.
Don't put a ring there. Just have them fight all over a baseball field.
That'd be great.
Let the fans bring the weapons. I'll throw a washing machine in. See what happens.
I like that. If you tweet that out, right?
As long as I mention Goldberg, it might happen.
Yeah, you tweet that, mention Goldberg. I've got some bot accounts that can
that can run it down.
Get on that. We'll get on that. More news throughout the day at cultaholic.com. Stay safe. Beep, beep, boop.
Thank you. See you later. Goodbye. Tatty bye. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen.